You've been there before, right? The looming deadline, the important email that you know you need to send, the project that could change everything. And yet you find yourself scrolling through social media, rearranging your desk, or suddenly feeling a strange urge to clean the kitchen. We all have tasks that we know are important, that we should be doing, but somehow we still avoid them. You've probably called yourself lazy. You might have even criticized yourself for not being disciplined enough. But what if I told you you're not lazy at all? What if this feeling of avoidance is actually rooted in something much deeper, something psychological? You see, there's an intricate web of factors at play when we avoid important tasks, and most of them are far from our control. But the good news is, once we understand why this happens, we can break free from the cycle of procrastination and guilt. So let's dig into it. Why do we avoid the very things we know we should be doing? And how can we learn to break free from this? Imagine for a moment you're sitting at your desk. There's a pile of work staring you down. You know that this task matters, but suddenly your mind starts racing. What if it's not good enough? What if I make a mistake? And before you know it, your phone is in your hand, and you're lost in a rabbit hole of videos, posts, and anything that isn't what you're supposed to be doing. The first thing we need to understand is that avoidance isn't laziness. It's not a matter of willpower or discipline. In fact, the psychology of procrastination is far more complex than we've been led to believe. When we avoid tasks, especially important ones, we're often engaging in a defense mechanism. We're avoiding the discomfort that comes with facing something that feels uncertain or overwhelming. This discomfort, the fear of failure, fear of judgment, or even the pressure of perfectionism, is so strong that it creates a mental block. This mental block leads us to delay, distract, and rationalize why we just can't focus. But here's the interesting part. This avoidance is not just a random occurrence. It's linked to the way our brains are wired. Our brain is hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So when you think about an overwhelming task that's associated with potential failure or discomfort, your brain's natural reaction is to protect you from that emotional pain by making you feel distracted or avoidant. This isn't your fault. It's the way your brain is built to work. And understanding this gives us the power to rewrite the story of how we engage with our tasks. There's another layer to this: self-sabotage. When we procrastinate, it's often because we're subconsciously protecting ourselves from deeper fears. This can be a fear of success as much as a fear of failure. Think about it. If you're afraid that success will change your relationships, bring more expectations, or make you feel unworthy, then avoiding tasks might feel safer. In this case, procrastination becomes a form of self-protection, even if it ultimately hurts you in the long run. You might be familiar with the term imposter syndrome. It's that nagging feeling that you don't truly belong or deserve your accomplishments. When you delay tasks, it could be because on a subconscious level, you're trying to keep yourself from the discomfort of feeling like an imposter. You push the task away to avoid confronting that uncomfortable truth. At this point, it's important to reflect on how you view yourself. Are you truly lazy, or are you simply protecting yourself from emotional discomfort? What are you afraid of? The more we explore these questions, the more we realize that procrastination is often linked to deeper fears that need to be addressed. Our patterns of avoidance don't develop overnight. In fact, they often trace back to early childhood experiences. Think about a time when you were a child. Maybe you were trying to do something new, perhaps drawing, learning to read, or even just trying to get through a task at school. How were you rewarded for your effort? Were you praised for simply trying, or did you face criticism if the result wasn't perfect? For many of us, childhood experiences with failure were tied to shame. You may have been told that you weren't trying hard enough, or that you weren't good enough when you failed. These messages, especially when repeated over time, shape how we approach challenges in adulthood. If we learn to associate failure with shame, we may avoid tasks that could lead to failure, even if that task is important. Now, as an adult, when faced with tasks that carry the potential for failure, you may subconsciously avoid them to protect yourself from the shame you experienced as a child. But here's the thing. Just because this behavior was learned doesn't mean it's permanent. You can change the way you respond to challenges. It's time to stop calling yourself lazy. Instead, let's understand that procrastination is a form of self-protection. By understanding why we avoid important tasks, we gain the power to change how we approach them. The key is shifting the narrative. Rather than viewing a task as a test of your worth, begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. This shift in perspective allows you to take the pressure off yourself and approach the task with more compassion and curiosity rather than fear. Here's a simple exercise. Next time you feel the urge to avoid something important, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Write down your thoughts. You might realize that what you fear isn't the task itself, but the emotional consequences attached to it. Fear of judgment, failure, or even success. Once you identify these fears, gently challenge them. Ask yourself, what would happen if I simply took one small step toward the task? Often, starting small is enough to break through the mental block and start making progress. When you feel the urge to avoid a task, practice self-compassion. Recognize that avoiding a task doesn't make you lazy. It simply means that you're facing an emotional barrier. By treating yourself with kindness, you create a safer environment to face those difficult tasks. Large tasks can feel overwhelming. Break them down into small, manageable steps. Focus on completing just one small task at a time. Celebrate each step, no matter how small, and acknowledge that progress is progress. Whether it's fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear of success, take the time to examine the underlying fears. By acknowledging them, you take away their power. Rather than punishing yourself for avoidance, set up a reward system for completing tasks. When you complete a step toward the task, reward yourself with something small that brings you joy. So, let's recap. You're not lazy. Procrastination and avoidance are often the result of deeper psychological mechanisms at play, from childhood experiences to fear of failure or success. The good news is, by understanding these mechanisms, you can begin to break the cycle. This isn't about disciplining yourself more. It's about addressing the emotional barriers that hold you back. When you approach tasks with self-compassion, a sense of curiosity, and an awareness of your fears, you free yourself from the cycle of avoidance and open up space for genuine success. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but every small step you take towards understanding yourself better is a victory. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's one task you've been avoiding, and what you think is the deeper reason behind it? Let's talk in the comments below.